Very, very good.
This is the second year that we organize the Root of Shame during the ILO conference, and this is to let all the people know here in Geneva, here in Switzerland, but all over the world, that there are still a lot of countries that are violating trade unions and workers' rights. This is something that we cannot accept. Mainly, we cannot accept now that there is a big discussion ongoing at the international level about the Sustainable Development Goal and the new agenda post 2015. Everybody is speaking how we can reduce poverty. Just respect workers' rights, just give all the workers around the world a decent job, decent wages, and fight for quality public services and redistribution of the wealth through a fair taxation system. These are the answers against inequalities. These are the answer for sustainable development. It's not violating workers' rights. It's not imposing not to respect the right to strike and the right to organizing, as many governments and employers are doing around the world. It's not imposing cuts on public spending and privatization that we can build a better world in the future. It's exactly the opposite. Austerity packages have now demonstrated that they are completely ineffective. Austerity policies are a big failure of the global financial system and the global governments. We need an alternative, and the alternative is fairness for workers and for citizens all over the world.
I come from Hong Kong. I am working for the International Domestic Workers Federation. But I want to tell you what happened 25 years ago in Beijing at the Tiananmen Square. 25 years ago, workers and students gathered at the Tiananmen Square in Beijing. They were crushed by tanks. Today, many people say China has changed. There is a lot of wealth. But I want to take this opportunity to tell you that suppression of human rights, of democracy, of independent democratic trade union movement in China has not stopped.
I'm heading the union that represents the staff in this building, the 3,500 staff working in humanitarian affairs, human rights, development, and many other things. Also coordinating staff unions representing UN staff around the world, 80,000 staff around the world. The majority working in very difficult locations. Last year, 2013, was a very difficult year for us because the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon decided to take away our collective bargaining rights. This meant that we couldn't negotiate on safety standards, we couldn't negotiate on budget cuts, and it was a slippery slope because if the United Nations starts removing collective bargaining, the United Nations was supposed to stand up for the rights of people around the world, then what would the governments do? They would take that as a signal as well to remove rights in national context. So we did a call for hope, and we're so happy that you all rallied by our side. We really appreciate the efforts of PSI and of the other unions and unions at the national level. You wrote to the governments who put pressure on the Secretary General. You sent emails, 14,000 emails. Trade Union has sent 14,000 emails to the Secretary General last year on this issue. They sent those emails, 14,000 emails on the first day of the General Assembly. So the Secretary General was coordinating his meetings with Obama and people like that, and all he had was in his inbox was 14,000 emails from trade unionists telling him to give rights back to UN staff. At the end of the day, it worked. Within a few months, we got our collective bargaining rights back, and our first negotiations will take place in 2 weeks' time in Spain. So we're really happy, and we'd really like to thank you about that.
В этом году исполняется 10 лет.
For 10 years, Belarus is being discussed in the Committee on the Application of Standards, and there was a special paragraph dedicated to Belarus for seven times already. That's a world record, and yesterday it happened once again. But we believe that we just have to keep on fighting, because in the end we're going to win. I think we started a good tradition, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to the day that we don't need to organize any more Root of Shame.
И я думаю, что в этом нам поможет наше уникальное оружие международная профсоюзная солидарность. Вместе мы победим!
Parce que mon pays réprime les travailleurs, à leur tête leurs représentants, les syndicalistes, et notamment les femmes, que nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour dire que en Algérie, vos camarades travailleuses et vos camarades travailleurs subissent la répression la plus farouche par un pouvoir autoritaire qui veut rester par la force et par la violence. Nous ne devons pas accepter que des travailleurs honorables, parce que tout simplement ils défendent la dignité des travailleurs, se trouvent aujourd'hui dans la misère, ils se trouvent aujourd'hui emprisonnés et poursuivis.
Since 2006, it's been a constant attack on our rights on collective bargaining, and in particular on the public sector. And we say to the Government of Canada, no, you cannot take the benefits. No, you cannot take the pensions. No, you cannot take the salaries of public sector workers or other workers.
Here, and I'd like to extend my gratitude for all the solidarity for our struggle against the privatization. KCTU and Korean workers will keep our struggle against the privatization in public sector, including railway, education, and healthcare.
Brothers and sisters, colleagues, comrades, it's my pleasure to speak to this rally. We know that this is not just a fight for the Korean Railway Union, but for the teachers and the government employees, because that government does not respect the workers' rights. In fact, that government does not respect the workers at all. They say that essential services, you cannot strike, but look what happened in the ferry disaster recently.
Fue una actividad en la cual fijamos la posición de Guatemala por las denuncias que se han presentado ante los organismos internacionales. Y a raíz de eso, pues el movimiento sindical, la Internacional de Servicios Públicos, nos ha apoyado grandemente. En este mismo momento en Guatemala y en muchas partes del mundo se está denunciando la violación que se está existiendo de parte de los gobiernos de América Latina en la ruta de la vergüenza.
La presencia de Ecuador, la delegación de los trabajadores, ha sido para denunciar las violaciones de los derechos laborales y sindicales de nuestro país que está cometiendo el actual presidente. Entonces, esa ha sido hoy nuestra intervención en el pleno de la Organización Internacional del Trabajo. Yo creo que era la única oportunidad, después de 6 años de haber hecho gestiones a nivel internacional, hoy ya concluir en una denuncia pública y por escrito de las violaciones a los derechos laborales, sindicales y de los derechos humanos.
Greetings from working men and women from Africa. Our issues are not different, they are not new. They are the kind of issues, the kind of stories you are telling. All over the world, working men, working women are under serious repression. For us, it's a case of having gone out of colonialism, entrenched some bit of what democracy means, but how democracy works for our people is the challenge we face. For us, increasingly we are seeing how democracy is working only for the elites, and the working masses and the poor men and women in the rural and the urban areas are made to continue to egg some form of survivors that does not represent what even basically our national constitutions prescribes. What am I talking about? I'm talking about situations where working men and women continue to work, live, even in poverty. A lot of them are working every day, but yet their daily pay, their earnings cannot take them home. Their earnings cannot guarantee them living and decent forms of lives and livelihood. In fact, the people in Swaziland are regarded as subjects. Comrades, the situation in the Central African Republic is a deplorable one. You know what is happening in Central African Republic. In the name of religion, brothers and sisters are killing themselves. In the name of religion, children are being killed. Thousands are rendered homeless, and thousands more are refugees in other lands. This is wrong. This is not right. And we think that as much as we are brothers and sisters in one global trade union community, we must continue to lend our voice to these issues. As we speak to you, our girls are still being held in some bush in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. As we speak to you, the reign of terror is sweeping across West Africa, it's going to the east of Africa, and we don't know where next it will end. As we speak to you, the reality is that working men and women are victims of this vicious development. This is not what Africa bargained for. And we say no to this, but to do that we need your support, because as working men and women we have resolved to fight, fight and fight until we rid our continent of vices that deprive our people of the basic means to live a decent life.
Es el segundo año que estamos haciendo este acto de la Ruta de la Vergüenza y me parece que será necesario transformar esta actividad en una tradición de la ISP. E invitamos também as outras internacionais a fazer o mesmo. Por que digo isso? Porque participando uma semana e pouco mais desta reunião e da comissão de normas, hemos percebido que está muito duro nossa vida para discutir qualquer caso de qualquer violência de direitos sindicais nesta comissão de normas. Hoje mesmo passamos problema sério porque os empregadores estão querendo travar a comissão de normas. Então é necessário que nós continuemos com nossa luta, os sindicatos fazendo as queixas, fazendo as reclamações, fazendo as denúncias do que passa e principalmente não podemos admitir a violação com morte de pessoas, com morte de trabalhadores, como que passa em Guatemala. É impossível ter a situação que passamos hoje no país de Guatemala. Para nós tem que ser símbolo a Guatemala hasta que nenhum trabalhador ou trabalhadora seja morto porque está lutando por seus direitos. E também quero dizer que estou muito aburrida com a situação do Equador. Muito feio o que passa em governo democrático que apoiamos, mas não se pode ter esse tipo de posição. Então, companheiros e companheiras, é necessário que continuemos na luta dos trabalhadores, da classe trabalhadora é internacional e eu estou aqui como uma trabalhadora apoiando e querendo apoio quando necessitar. Muitas graças.
I'd like to say that Education International stands 100% besides and with PSI and the rest of the union movement in this. Because sometimes, friends, sometimes we need to name and shame. Sometimes we need to tell the world, we need to show the world that we are not fooled. We know what is going on. We need to tell governments that if they have a crisis in their country, it is not a solution for them to create hundreds of thousands of personal crises in their country by firing people, by removing jobs, by thinking you could move forward by making life miserable for working people. We need to show and tell the world that you cannot implement reforms and create understanding and support for them by ignoring collective bargaining, by ignoring social dialogue, by just enforcing your solutions. And we must show and tell the world that we know what governments are doing when they are privatizing public services. They are outsourcing their responsibilities they have to their citizens, and they are actually, in many times, they are giving away public money for private profit. We will not stand still and not tell the world about this. And my friends, we will not forget the countries in the shadow, the quiet spots on earth where we think everything is perfect. Like my neighboring country, Denmark, on the top of ITUC's Trade Union Rights Index, that last year managed to have a lockout of all their teachers for 4 weeks and transform a collective agreement into an act in Parliament that ignored their trade union rights. We will not stand still. We will name and shame them this year and next year and every year forward. Thank you.
Nosotros estamos aquí en la 103 discusión de la OIT y nos hemos dado cuenta que duro es que los gobiernos y los empresarios respalden el trabajo de la economía informal. Perú tiene el 80% de trabajadores en la economía informal, más de 10 millones de trabajadores. Yo felicito esa lucha y ese pronunciamiento público que hacen ustedes, porque es el momento que nos tenemos que unir, rompiendo fronteras, así como los grandes empresarios se unen para no solucionar nuestro problema. Nosotros también hay que unirnos para hacer frente a esta gran burocracia que día a día está jodiendo nuestro país. ¿Qué quieren? ¿Que nosotros digamos en el tiempo hacer una lucha de clase? No, yo creo que no vamos a permitir eso. Yo soy una comerciante ambulante. Hoy, allá en el Perú, en Lima, se está desalojando a más de 20.000 ambulantes. Ya tenemos un muerto. Hoy que empezó esta batalla. Yo estoy aquí, pero mañana me regreso porque tengo que hacer frente. Tengo que unirme a esa lucha.
¡Fuerza! ¡Fuerza, compañeros! ¡Y el pueblo unido jamás será vencido! ¡El pueblo unido jamás será vencido! Gracias.
Solidarity! Go, go, go! Solidarity!